I'm just trying to save you some money. My job is not just to entertain, but to educate, put days like today in perspective. Call me. 1-800-743-CNBC or tweet me at Jim Cramer. Leave it to the banks to spoil the Fed part. Yeah, the Fed was fine today, calm, measured, but it was discouraging news on the mini bank crisis from the Treasury Department. It sent the Dow plunging 530 points, S&P plummeting 1.65%, and the NASDAQ nosediving 1.6%. Yet, this afternoon, the Fed did what was widely expected. It raised interest rates by 0.25%. Fed Chief Jay Powell told us there's still plenty of inflation in the system, so he has to tighten. But he also said the recent bank runs have made the Fed feel less worried about inflation in the future. Because weakness at the banks means credit's going to get tighter going forward. In other words, the collapse of 3 banks and the worries about many others are doing Powell's job for him, although not in the orderly way he would necessarily like it to be. It was calm, it was soothing, it was thoughtful. If the banking situation stabilizes and inflation, especially wage inflation, doesn't improve, then I get it. He'll hit us with another very necessary quarter-point hike. Ain't that clear? Again, logical, reasonable, and something anyone with a savings account should actually cheer. I think the market would have been fine with a Fed meeting. Initially, we were actually up in response. If Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen didn't come out at the same time and say the government won't be bailing out the shareholders or bondholders of failed banks, even that's okay. But then she said Treasury isn't even considering a unilateral expansion of deposit insurers. Not okay. Because that's what's needed to prevent more bank runs. Why not just pull your money out if there's no guarantee? See, it just so happens that Powell was talking about how the bank failures could lead to a de facto tightening exactly at the same time that Yellen did her best to reassure no one. Together, the words overshadowed everything else that was reasonable, logical, and measured that Powell said, because Wall Street had actually started convincing itself that maybe, just maybe, the banking system was on the mend, stabilizing, and the government might protect depositors. All depositors. So we learned a valuable lesson today. Whenever we think that we can go back to normal, we have to recognize the banking system is just damaged by inadequate deposit protection, which revokes confidence and tightens credit all by itself. It is absolutely true that we want the Fed to be vigilant against inflation. Go down the aisle of any retailer, visit any car dealership, try to buy a home. It's all still way too expensive versus 4 years ago. Sure, Powell says there's housing weakness, but nothing meaningful. Wages still going higher, except maybe not as fast as before. And that's why I think a quarter-point basis hike seemed right. It may be another if things don't cool off. But the banking crisis makes it so we got 2 markets. The market that needs a financial system with a clean bill of health, and a market that only wants to own the stocks of the fastest growing companies, especially tech companies like Nvidia or Meta or Apple or Microsoft, the usual gang that does well without any financing. In between, there's a ragtag group of stocks that are trading with their fundamentals, thank heavens. But those are very hard to judge right now because the economy is so hard to predict. The big bifurcation, I find it pretty nuts. The market in all its wisdom decided that if the bank stocks go down, then there'll be no economic activity because nobody will be able to get credit. But if a company doesn't need to borrow, then its business is fine. Of course, this is stupid. Tech's only as good as its customers, and many of its customers are in big trouble if they can't get credit, which is why perhaps even these stalwarts were swept away by the end of the day. So let's do this. Let me step back, have a sip of my tea, regain my voice. That didn't work. And then maybe explain what's really happening, as opposed to what this market's blabbering about, and I am certainly trying to enunciate. First, Jay Powell's trying, like everyone else, to figure out what the heck went wrong here with the banks that just failed, beyond incredibly poor management. Were the regulators asleep at the switch? Is there another thing lurking behind the door? Is there anything we can do better? He's trying to be so constructive. Like everyone else in the government, he'll say the banking system is strong, but that's what you have to say. Everybody knows that. The banking system isn't strong enough. It's not strong enough for us not to be worried. Unfortunately, that fear can't be quantified, like the price of a home or how much a car costs or eggs or bacon or wages or apparel. We just can't nail it down. And worse, Yellen created a completely unnecessary level of uncertainty by speaking about the crisis as if it's definitely ongoing. Next thing you know, you feel like it's silly to be focused on how many basis points the Fed's hitting us with. What matters is that 2 weeks into this mini financial crisis, we have no plans. We don't know what's happening. We aren't sure who else is going to fail, but it sure seems like someone will. In the end, we may end up with a worse solution. This is how you wipe out inflation. You get a vicious deflationary wave of bank failures that savages the entire economy. Of course, Powell doesn't want it to be that way, but Powell's a realist. He knows credit will get difficult if there are more bank runs. That's natural. Yellen doesn't want it either, but Yellen's a politician. She has to say over and over again that the taxpayers won't have to pay for anything, but we're somehow going to make sure depositors are okay, but definitely without extending the FDIC's deposit insurance or for anybody else. Powell, though, Powell's in sham. If he didn't raise rates, he'd look like he was panicking. If he raised them by a quarter point and nothing else happened, would have been fine. The problem is Powell has backed himself into what I call an off-the-cuff corner with these ridiculous press conferences. We got question after question after question, which in totality made us feel like the banking collapse is both past and, more important, future. We got plenty of fear generated just by the same questions over and over and over again in different forms, hoping that someone can trip up Powell. And we want to know why there was no oversight. How come the bankers were allowed to do what they do? Hey, will it happen again? Now, that is the reporter's job. Powell has no choice but to play a rope-a-dope like Muhammad Ali. I hated them because it doesn't help anyone, least of all you. And I find it actually unbecoming of the office itself. Look at it this way. We came in this session thinking the Fed and Treasury and the FDIC were starting to get control of bank crises. We believed things were stabilized, but now, thanks to the congressional hectoring of Janet Yellen and the endless replay of questions to Powell about the fragility of the banking system, we came out of this session worried. We came out nervous. We came out frightful. And of course, we came out steeling ourselves for the inevitable bank failures that we didn't think were inevitable going into today. The market got bowled over so easily because we were dumbfounded that Yellen, thought to be a seasoned, non-political hand, could be so tone-deaf with her words, destroying the most fragile banks. Think First Republic, perhaps? Knowing what we know about the speed of the bank runs, it was, let's say, ill-timed, ill-advised? Definitely suboptimal. Bottom line, we ended up not worrying at all about that quarter-point rate hike, and instead being racked by the notion of which bank will collapse next, tearing out our hair over how depositors may get hurt, investors will be crushed, or who knows, bondholders, who's next? Not a great way to resolve what otherwise would have been an orderly display against inflation and in favor of confidence and stability that we all crave and, frankly, deserve. Sunny in Illinois, sunny.
Hey, Jim, a big investment club booyah to you, my friend.
Thank you. What's up?
Hey, man, I've been a long-time fan of your show, and I really need to tap into your 25 years of market wisdom. I'm thinking about investing in energy right now, and you know, oil has come down, but it's hovering around $70 a barrel. So I'm looking at a company, and I'm wondering if you could tell me and all your other investment club members if you invest in this one company that's pulled back about 10% in price, but it has a dividend yield of 10%. Would you recommend ET to us investment club members, and would you consider buying it for your charitable trust?
Well, I would. I don't think it's as well managed as some of the others. If you want to know the best run, it's Enterprise Products Partners. That yields 8, usually yields 10. I don't like to reach for yield. I would prefer Enterprise Products Partners. Kevin in Illinois. Kevin.
Hello, Jim. Boya, how you doing today?
I'm doing okay. How about you?
Doing very well, but I've got a question. From March 8th to March 15th, the Fed posted on their website on the 17th that they'd increased the balance sheet from $8.3 trillion to $8.6 trillion, a $297 billion increase. And I can only think that that's because of the Silicon Valley Bank problem. And how is this not a buyout or the Fed buying the debt from SVB?
Remember, the Federal Reserve has talked about using the discount window, which has been used historically to be able to preserve stability in the system. So I don't think the Fed's doing anything wrong. There's a lot of instability. We found out far more instability than we realized at 3 o'clock when Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen revealed herself as being someone who gave false reassurance and then took that away. So let's deal with it as we may. Sumner in New York. Sumner.
Hi. How are you?
Hi, Sumner. I'm good. How are you?
Sumner Bay. How are you?
I am good. What's going on?
I want to know what's going on with the hospitality industry. Are we trying to get around? I think
No,
so.
look, I think it's very strong, but it depends on the day. I mean, you have a day like today where people are very fearful and then wondering whether the good news will continue. And then tomorrow, if you don't get a bank failure, people will go right back. And that's why I think that stocks like Airbnb, Marriott are all good to go. And I even like the stock of American Express. Right, leave it to the banks to spoil the Fed party. They always do. Not a great way to resolve what otherwise would have been an orderly display in favor of confidence and stability and against inflation. I mean, Money tonight. With the Fed decision in the rear view, could it be time to circle back to the office suites, or does the sector remain untouchable? I'll give you my take. And then we're going to go and talk to